Welcome to Empower Connect. My name is Carolyn McLean, your host. Today I want to talk about we all have a story. If you were to tell your life story using a description or sitcom, a movie, a book, a song, what would it be? Would you describe your life as good times because you are living your best life even with some storms? Or would you describe your life as a different world because you moved to a new state, going off to college, or doing something new? Or would you describe your life as an overcomer because no matter what storms you have faced, you were able to come through? Or would you describe your life as a castaway because you feel you are alone in your storm and no one cares? Or would you describe your life as triumphant through tragedy, that even though the storm was meant to destroy you, you came out a winner? Or would you describe your life as no more suffering in silence because you have decided that it is time for healing, deliverance, and restoration? Or maybe because of some of the storms you've been through, you may call your life story, I never would have made it, because you did because of the grace of God. Or maybe you describe your life story as believe for it because you have seen how many times God has shown up for you and you are standing on his promises. Whatever title you give your life story, it is your story. It is your story to tell. I have always titled my life story as knocked down but not out because no matter what comes my way, it may knock me down, it may get me down, it may even catch me off guard. But one thing I have learned, I am not out. You see, we all have our own stories to tell. Yes, they are different when it comes to what has transpired in our journey. Some of us have really experienced dark moments where we have lived or are living through days when we feel like the whole world is on our shoulders. Other times we feel like we have hit rock bottom and feel like isolating ourselves because we feel forgotten and no one cares. Sometimes our life story brings us to our knees where we are looking for some type of relief. The good news is that when life brings you to your knees, this is when we are really at our strongest. Strongest? Really? You may say? Yes, stronger. Because you have done all that you can do on your own. You have exhausted all your resources, and now you're at a place where you have nothing else to give but surrender. When you reach this point, where life had brought you to your knees, this is where you come to the realization, like Paul talks about in 2 Corinthians 12, verses 9 and 10. And as I read that, verse 9, I'm reading from the Amplified Version, it says, "But he has said to me," this is Paul talking about Jesus, "My grace is sufficient for you. My love and kindness and my mercy are more than enough, always available, regardless of the situation. For my power has been perfected and is completed and shown itself more effectively in your weakness. Therefore, I will always the more gladly boast in my weakness, so that the power of Christ may completely inform me, may dwell in me. Let's read that again. Therefore, I will all the more gladly boast in my weakness, so that the power of God may completely enfold me and may dwell in me. Verse 10. So I am well pleased with weakness, with insults, with distresses, with persecution, with difficulties, for the sake of Christ. For when I am weak in human strength, then I am strong, truly able, truly powerful, truly drawn from God's strength. Now, although God did not remove Paul's physical affliction, he promised to demonstrate his power in Paul. Just like Paul, God would demonstrate his power through our weakness. Now, this should encourage us to keep moving always forward in our life story. As we recognize our limitations, we will depend more on God for our effectiveness rather than on our own energy, effort, and talent. Our limitations and weakness not only help develop our characters as followers of Christ, but it also deepens our worship because in admitting them, we affirm God's strength. It is in our weakest moment that God's strength is manifested. It is in our darkest moment that the light of Jesus Christ shines the brightest. It is only when we reach our limits that we can truly understand how limitless our God is. When we are strong in our abilities or resources, we are tempted to do God's work on our own, and that can lead to pride. When we are weak, allowing God to fill us with his power, then we are stronger than we ever can be on our own. When those storms come, we must depend on God. Only his power will make us effective for him and will help us do work that has lasting values. In the Bible, we have a lot of stories where people, during their weakest moment, they found supernatural strengths caused where their limitation ended and God took over. We all know the story of David and Goliath. He could not have defeated Goliath on his own. It was God's strength that defeated Goliath. We all love the story of the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in the fiery furnace. They would not have survived the fiery furnace without God taking over. Moses and the Israelites were able to cross the Red Sea because God took over. They would not have been able to cross the Red Sea in their own strength. Esther would not have been able to save her people until God took over. The woman with the issue of blood who had been suffering for 12 years, she was healed when God took over. These are just a few people in the Bible that faced different situations, and they all were limited in some way. They all had weakness, and it was in their weakness God's strength was manifested. Difficulties comes in our life in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes difficulties is not a dramatic tragedy, but the busiest chaos of managing life. We can trust God during these difficult times. Let God take over your situation and watch him work your situation for his glory. Allow him to write your story by trusting him. You may think, I do not have anything exciting happening in my life. My story is not important. I'm here to tell you, Yes, your story is important. The reason why your story is important is because someone needs to hear your voice. Someone needs to hear your testimony. Someone needs you to leave a mark in your generation. We all want to be remembered for the good that we have done and how we made others feel. Our journey is filled with choices we make, failures, successes, high points, low points. Just remember, no one's perfect. Sometimes our journey will lead us to asking for help, and that's okay. Then at times, the journey leads us to help others, and that's okay. So it does not always have to be money when we help. Sometimes having someone to talk to, someone to be there to listen without judging. It could also be just someone encouraging you through a text message at the right time. Or it could be a message on social media that just touched you at the right time. Or someone sitting with you at the hospital. Someone that's telling you that they missed you when you have not been seen in a while or heard from in a while. You are unique. You have a unique story that could help someone else. Our story in life is our testimony that could help someone get through their storm of life. Our life story is a bridge for someone to have the strength to survive their storm. Our life journey is a story that is waiting to be told. I have a story, you have a story. What is the life story that you want to tell? What is your life story that others would remember that made a special difference to them? All stories, no matter who we are, can truly make a difference in someone else's life. God's grace is sufficient for you. Whatever storms you are facing, God's power is made perfected in your weakness. If you feel you have hit rock bottom in your life story, God's loving kindness and His mercy are more than enough, which is available to you regardless of your situation. So don't give up. When your storm of life makes you feel outnumbered, don't give up. When your storm of life makes you feel overwhelmed, don't give up. When whatever storms you are facing currently, don't give up. Because when you are at your weakest, this is when you are strong. Your story is not over yet. We all have our own story. Sometimes we stay attached to our stories, and this can stop us from growing and living. These can make us weak, but once we give it over to God, we are made strong. He will change your life story and change your life. We all have a story to tell, where we come from, where we are, and where we intend to go. So every sad, mad, happy, smiling, or joyful face has a story behind it. We all have a story where we have gone through something that has changed our life, our hearts, and our destiny. So let's connect our story to the fullest. Thank you for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. I hope this podcast has been a blessing and encouragement to you. So please subscribe to my podcast. That way you will never miss an episode. And also feel free to share. And if you want to connect to me, just visit my website at www.curlingcoaching.com. And just remember, this is not the end of your story. Just connect to who you are in Christ by forgiving and growing daily in Him. You may get knocked down, but you are not out. Just get up and turn the page to start a new chapter. Thank you, and God bless.